Welcome to another Business Untangled on 107 FM. I'm Dave Petersen. It's the show where we talk about the real issues, opportunities and ideas shaping businesses across Hull and East Yorkshire. Interviewing business leaders, shaping our future. Really looking forward to today's conversation and diving into the story behind the Roo Group, the journey, the challenges and the wins, and what's helped shape that business to what it is today. The aim of this show is to give listeners real insight into the people behind the businesses, while hopefully inspiring others who are building their own journey along the way.
You are listening to Untangled on 107 FM with the Property Directors Club, Hull's professional network for property and business leaders. Check them out on Facebook, Insta and LinkedIn.
Part 1, The Story with Dave Petersen. Hi Bella.
Hi.
Thanks again for coming on, and I'm sure you're going to give amazing value to our listeners. Let's just jump straight into it. So for anyone that doesn't know you, what is Roo Group and who is Bela?
So Roo Group is a company that's where strategy, people and digital connect. So we help business founders to sort of organise and strategise their business that aids growth. We do that through the digital platforms. And we just like to help people win and see people win, really. As for me, I've got a bit of a checkered career background. I've just spent the last 10 years in corporate accounting until I was made redundant in January. So Roo Group is a really new venture, but it's something that I'm really enjoying. Everything that I do in Roo and that I've learned from my last 20 years in the different roles that I've done, like I say, I've just come out of a 10-year corporate accounting background, but I've worked with brands such as Tommy Hilfiger, Calvin Klein, Topshop. I worked in Germany when I worked on a forces base. I was out there for 6 years running a welfare centre for soldiers. I worked in the gym out there. I've worked with one of the girls that was on Britain's Next Top Model. So I've had a bit of a checkered career. And then everything that I've done over the last 20 years has sort of helped me found and sit really comfortably in the work that I do with Roo.
So let's strip that back. There's a huge list there. I think now my career looks boring. Property, rugby. That's how mine's gone. But let's just go back a little bit then. So you stepped out of college. Did you go to college as well?
Yes, I studied dance at college.
Okay.
Whilst I was working as a personal trainer. And that sort of led into my first role. So I worked as a personal trainer at Cave Castle Country Club for numerous years. Before I then moved to Germany and I was a personal trainer over in Germany when I first got there, really. And then I moved into the welfare centre. Like I said, I worked on a forces base. My ex-husband was forces, so I sort of moved around with him. So every 2 years we would move to somewhere new, which sort of is why I've got the checkered career past. And as much as some people think that you should start in a role and aim to stay in that role for however many years and proceed and succeed in that role, I think moving around every 2 years and starting again and doing something completely different has really helped with the resilience that I help and advise business owners with today. Yeah,
I was just going to say that to be that versatile, obviously, I guess that's why the broad list for sure. But the dancing and the fitness went hand in hand. Mm-hmm. Obviously, fitness alongside, your ex-husband's career was, did that kind of shape the journey for Bela?
Yeah, I think because he moved so much, there was no other option for me but to just everything that I did give 110% at, because I didn't know how long I was going to be there doing it, and I'm quite a competitive person for people that know me, and I like to succeed. So everything that I did, I might have started off at the bottom, but every role that I've had, I've worked my way up to the top. As far as I can go. For example, when I lived in Germany, I worked in the gym for so long. And then once I'd had enough of doing that, I moved into the welfare centre, which was where I was dealing with the welfare of the soldiers and the families. It's probably one of the best jobs that I have, because I basically got paid to have coffee and eat cake with people and find out what they needed and what they were looking for, if they needed any support. And then once the regiment disbanded, I then moved into Costa, where I started just working on a Saturday, and I just used to make coffee on a Saturday. And then I progressed up to a managerial position there and then came back to the UK. So
the important thing there, and I can really see that in the energy and everything that you do, is starting fresh. You know, it's not a real worry to you. If anything, it's a challenge.
I think some people it's quite hard to go into a new environment every so often and change and go into a completely different direction. But I really thrive off learning new things, and I like to jump at trying something else. And a lot of the time, the roles that I've been in, I've progressed into another role because someone's given me an option, and I've gone, yeah, I'll do it. Let's try it. If it doesn't work, we always come home. It doesn't really make a difference. I mean, a lot of the visual merchandising stuff that I did for Topshop, Tommy Hilfiger and Calvin Klein was all based off the back of a company that I worked with in Farnham called Crew Clothing, and I just used to be the Saturday girl in there. But I used to love putting the clothes together and putting things in the window of the store. And the regional manager had come round one afternoon and were looking at the windows, and they'd asked who had done the windows, and the manager at the time had said, oh, it's the Saturday girl, she's done it. And that actually progressed into a visual merchandising role for that company when I was really only there for 4 hours on a Saturday to start off with.
So that was quite a big turning point. And I guess, do you think that kind of pathway then has led you to be able to understand marketing aspects and stuff like that? Because obviously you're dealing with that within Roo Group too.
Yeah, I've got quite an eye for perfection because I'm a bit of a perfectionist myself. I like things to look good, to sit great, and I like to make sure that everything tells a story, which again, like you said, coming back to the marketing, it's really important when you're trying to get things across to your customer and your target market, the story of the business or the story of the service or the product. So it's definitely really helped me with that.
I feel like going and checking if my shirt's ironed now, but I can certainly see, you know, like I say, from working there, you know, showcasing the assets of that company to then changing it. So you've done a lot on social media with regards to your visual merchandising, and has that really, you know, taken your credibility and your accountability to people as well, you know, to that next step alongside your businesses?
Yeah, and I think a lot of the stuff that I post on socials have sort of led me down the route that I went into I work with an American supplement company, and they found me on Instagram when they asked me to be an ambassador for them, and that was through the post that I was putting on my stories of the products and of me using the products, of me getting my friends to use the products and interviewing them using the products. So I think a lot of the visual stuff that I've picked up from that journey, I've then put into the social side of things, which then led to bigger things through the socials. And a lot of the things that I preach in Roo Group is about connection and who your connections are and how you connect with different people. And obviously the social platforms is such a big part of that nowadays, especially.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and it's not something that I've got my head around. So certainly, you know, listening and talking to people like yourself, just to give them little practical insights and things certainly help. So you have been, let's, you know, fast forward a little bit again, you know, 10 years in a corporate background, you know, what has that taught you, you know, in that journey? Because you seem, you know, very self-good, well-driven to, you know, to create little startups in different ways, obviously fitness, health, visual merchandising, to then step into corporate. It seems like a massive change. Yeah,
well, I actually started off in the practice as an admin. So I just used to come in and put all this was before, like, the huge technology wave started, and we used to just put stuff on spreadsheets. So I was putting receipts on spreadsheets, which I've got a bit of an OCD personality, so I quite enjoyed that. But going from, like you say, working in the visual side of things and planning store layouts and things like that to going and sitting in an office, it was a huge change. But for me, it's always been about helping people. And I think moving into corporate and especially accounting, like, you're dealing with people's money. So people have got to trust you. So you've got to be really involved with that. And I think that's why I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed being part of other people's businesses, which I think is what has led me to be self-employed now. Instead of just focusing on one thing, I like to help people focus on all of their things rather than just one thing of my own.
Yeah. Okay. Totally understand and see that. And it certainly resonates with, you know, startup businesses and entrepreneurs themselves. Is something's got to happen as well, hasn't it, to create the change. And you've been open about the redundancy, you know, and that being a big, you know, turning point and change for
absolutely.
You. You know, how's that setback then really, you know, made you create Roo Group, and Where do you see yourself at the moment?
I think for me, when I got the redundancy, I actually applied for more roles in corporate because I thought I've been doing this for 10 years. It's what I know. I'm good at it. This is what I'll do. So obviously January is an awful time to try and find a new job because no one's recruiting. And I applied for 4 corporate jobs. The first one told me I was overqualified. Not great when you've got bills to pay in 2 weeks, and I'm thinking, how am I going to pay my rent? The second one they employed from inside, but they wanted to keep me on my CV on file. And in all fairness to them, they actually called me about 6 weeks later, but I'd already set up Roo by this point. And then 2 of them didn't even respond. So I was panicking a little bit, thinking, okay, well, I've got all this experience. I can't use it within a company in the corporate side of things. That was what I thought. So I thought, what am I going to do? And it was actually a conversation that I had with Alison Lambert from HR Guru, who's a local business herself. And she said, you've been doing this, what you enjoy, the business development, the strategy, the social platform management for clients within corporate for the last 6 years. You've not even really been doing accounting. So why are you applying for accounting? And I was like, I don't know. I don't actually know why I'm applying for accounting. And she was like, you're more than capable of doing this on your own. You've already done it for all your friends and their businesses. So why don't you just do it for yourself? Yeah. And if she'd not pushed me, Roo Group probably would have never been born. So having that conversation with her made me realise, you know what, I can do this for myself. And like I say, because I've worked in corporate accounting, I thought I've been advising people on how to set up in business for years. If I can't do it, then no one can do it. You know what I mean? If you're telling people for years how to do it and what they need to do to set up in business, if I then can't put my money where my mouth is and do it myself.
Yeah. It's still a leap of faith, though, and credit to you in that sense. Like you say, you're worried about them bills, and you're going, well, actually, how does this work? And doing it yourself, there's just something different about it, isn't it? Satisfying in the sense of it's something for you now.
Yeah.
The longevity of it, you can build it and scale it however you wish. And I guess that's always governed in the corporate world.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
you said, there's a ceiling always. So to practice what you preach, is perfect on that. So tell us a little bit more then of what actually Roo Group is going to be doing for clients, how you can assist them in their journey.
So a lot of what I do is working with business owners to strategize and lay out what they want to do with their business. There's such a gap in the market for people that all these business owners, you set up in business to do the one thing that you're good at, and you have all these different ideas, but you don't know how to put it down onto a piece of paper, how to put it into a timeline, what that looks like for your business, or how to... You might know what you want to do and where you want to go, but you don't know the steps of how to do that. So I sort of come in and speak to owners and ask them lots of questions, pick their brains, find out where they want the business to go, what that looks like, how they want to get there, what do they want to do along the journey. And then I sort of fill the gaps along the way. And whether that's putting in a new marketing strategy or using the social platforms to create brand awareness, whether that's cleansing the CRM or finding them new contacts, connecting them with people that I know within the local area that can then aid the growth and help them do the things that they want to do. Business development, I think people think that you don't need it in business and it's not an important part of it. But if you ever want to develop or grow your brand, you need to have someone that sits in that position to be able to focus and drive that.
It's a conversation, isn't it? A conversation always has to be had, and you can even relay that to yourself. You had a conversation with Alison, I think.
Absolutely,
you said, and she actually said she just questioned something, isn't it? And then that changed, the whole process and to why. So people are coming to you with that problem then. And it seems to me that you're a bit more hands-on. Mm-hmm. You're kind of working within the business, not just on it.
Yeah.
Is that right in saying?
Yeah. So a lot of the owners that I speak to, they've got maybe 6 or 8 ideas of these different things that they think are going to work for their business and it's how their business is going to grow. But they're trying to do all 8 of them at once, which is making them come across as really washy. So what Roo Group does is we tend to go in, pick the ideas, organise them, and then strategize them so that you can spearhead each individual project so that you're getting the most out of each of the plans rather than you like I say, washing over the top of it and not actually committing to it properly, making sure that the right marketing's in place, making sure that you're hitting the right target customers, making sure that you're talking to people with the right language. And when you're trying to do all the other things like running a business, running employees, go out and get new clients, make sure that the website's updated, all that sort of stuff, you don't really have the time to do the work that we do at Roo. So we'll take that stress out as well, I suppose you could say.
So, Bela, it's fair to say then, with your broad knowledge and understanding of many businesses from the corporate world and accounting, you've got that insight to how they run and operate the businesses. So I'm guessing that, is head and shoulders above maybe competitors in the assistance they can give your clients.
Yeah, I think because I've worked with so many different businesses, as in sole trader, limited company, size, sector, I've seen a lot of the things that businesses have gone through, things that they've done right, things that they've done wrong, things that we've implemented to streamline procedures to gain them time back so that they can then concentrate on doing other things. And I've seen how that works and what that looks like. So I think that gives me a really good insight into how people are running their businesses and how I can sort of help people to make that change better. And I think just by experience as well, because I used to do weekly accounts clinics where businesses could come and talk to me. I was sat in a space all afternoon and you could just come and ask me any question. And the questions that people used to ask me, even if I didn't know it, I would go back to the practice and say, guys, this is what I've been asked. Can you help me with this? So I was constantly learning new things. And with the accounts being involved in sort of my background as well, I can look at things and say, that doesn't look quite right. What's going on here? Why is that not adding up? And teaching business owners as well, like to look inside their business and not just keep moving forward. Like just because you've made some money doesn't mean that you've actually made some money. And we've got to look at where that is allocated first, and then how do we then make sure that that turns into a profit. So
yeah, it certainly seems like you've said is you developed into this role by looking at the basis of accounts and having your background in different things, and I think it's a real pleasure to see that's a good understanding of yourself and Roo Group. So let's come back in part 2 and delve into a little bit more of that and how you can assist other people and other companies.